So this morning's devotional, June 30th. I'm recording this in my car because it's the only quiet place in our house. No, Maddie's at home with the kids, and I'm getting out for a little bit. And so this morning's passage that I thought just sort of stood out to me was Acts 13, verse 41, and it's a quote from Habakkuk, or maybe a reference to Isaiah as well, where as Paul is addressing the people in the synagogue and testifying to Jesus, he references a scripture that they would have held sacred as a scripture reflecting the story of God and who God is and what God does. And last night in our relational theology Zoom, we were talking about this exact idea that God, well, I'll read it. So in Acts 13, there's a reference to the Hebrew scriptures. It says, "Look, you scoffers, wonder and perish, for I am going to do something in your days that you would never believe, even if someone told you." Look, you scoffers, wonder and perish, for I am going to do something in your days that you would never believe, even if someone told you. I love that passage. It really kind of stood out to me this morning. This idea that, and we were talking about this last night, as looking at God and trying to understand who God is. There's this acknowledgement that, especially when you look at the Gospels with the disciples, and these are guys who lived with Jesus, who were in this discipleship relationship with him, and so not just kind of learning his teachings, but learning his way of living, trying to embody his essence, right, as followers of him, their rabbi, and yet when he starts talking about the cross, he starts talking about him suffering, and then when he actually moves toward the cross, he gets arrested and he's tortured, he's crucified. They don't get it. There's this total misunderstanding of what Jesus was doing, and they had this concept of this understanding, if you will, of who Jesus was and what he would do. And here in this text, we have Paul looking back, and he, with hindsight, of course, is able to testify to the ways that Jesus was here on earth, doing things that even if people had been told at the time the extent of Jesus's ministry, the earth-shattering, cosmos realigning movement of his life, death, and resurrection, they wouldn't have been able to understand it. And I think I think it's important to acknowledge that this is a text that Paul references at this exact time, in as recorded in the book of Acts, and that it's referring to the ways that Jesus moved with his incarnation, death, and resurrection, and it also it gives us insight into who God is. That God is the one who not only acts beyond our understanding, but God is the one who acts beyond our imagination. That God is so much bigger than we could ever understand. But even if we go beyond our understanding and find ourselves journeying into the realm of imagination, God is bigger than that. And we see that how he ushered in his kingdom here on earth as it is in heaven. We see that how he continues to build and grow his kingdom on earth as it is in heaven. And as we find ourselves in our world today asking all kinds of questions about the world, about people, about the church, about where all of this is going, I find a passage like this helpful, where it says, God is the one who does things in our days, as he did in days past, that we would never believe, even if someone told us. And that is good news, because I think God is on the move, and God's going to do some powerful, good stuff. And I think some of that stuff goes beyond even my wildest dreams, my greatest imagination. And it's this idea that our vision of God's kingdom falls desperately short of its beauty. So may we gather again this morning and in the days to come, in the presence of the one who not only acts beyond our understanding, but the one who acts beyond our imagination. Amen.